Greetings, pairs, orphans, and retrogrades. Welcome to a Thursday episode of Rules for Retrogrades, where upon you, the humble and dear listener, viewer, are seeing before your very eyes the indicia of cultural counter-revolution. Cultural counter-revolution. What does this mean? It means that, as I promised you throughout late last year, 2023, the counter-revolution on the household, waged originally in the revolution by the feminists in 1848, is turning around. And I said, don't expect it to turn around where like every one of your neighbors is going to become a counter-feminist, but at least where Roman Catholics will become counter-feminists. And guess what you're seeing now? Well, what do you see in the news? Harrison Butker, a traditional Catholic, who's firmly in our orbit, been friends for about 5 years, comes out and says at a commencement speech, it was actually last week, it broke 2.5 days ago, "Congratulations, ladies." And he said it the nicest possible way, your main thing should now be going home and being wives, which carries with it being mothers, but being wives. Now, when I've always cited the Roman Catechism, the one catechetical teaching on the duties of men and women who are married, it's not duties of fathers, it's not duties of mothers, it's duties of husbands and wives, because these duties are foundational to the duties of husbands who become fathers, wives who become mothers. They're more important. A married woman is a wife, a married man is a husband, and we have separate duties and separate rights. Remember, I reviewed my debate against Trent Horn from 4 years ago where he said that men and women have the same rights. I'm going to read to you Pope Pius X saying, no, Trent Horn's wrong, from beyond the grave. But what you need to know is that the backlash that you're seeing against Harrison Butker is precisely what I expected when someone outside of a small traditional, medium-sized traditional Catholic orbit, mine, begins to say this on the center stage. And all I can promise you, as I promised you all this would come to pass, late last year, I think it was when Pearly Things got out there and started talking, was that the case for Patriarchy, which is the book for making this claim. You need to read it if you haven't made it. It came out in 2021, got largely ignored, partly got ignored because Steph's book, Ask Your Husband, drew all the fire, was going to be forced into the limelight. I said that in late 2023. Harrison's helping to do it. Forget the book. It's the arguments, the teachings on what a woman is that are applicable to all Christians. Harrison Butker said in the nicest possible terms, okay, you got a degree, now go home. There's a couple wrong assumptions in the American discourse on education. For one thing, education's supposed to be theology, philosophy, mathematics. The university was created for those three disciplines: philosophy, natural philosophy, which is mathematics, and theology. Now they made it into trade school. All the other degrees are basically, trade school, glorified trade school, and yet parents think that it's an education to go get trained as like a nurse. No, that's trade school. They just do it at college. Has nothing to do with education. You're being trained as a nurse or trained as some technician. It's basically that all these degrees, besides the main three, you should be going and getting a degree at ITT Tech or University of Phoenix somewhere, a 2-year degree, maybe a 4-year degree, and going and tending to your profession. Men, Harrison said, well, your main thing should be you get to be wives and mothers. And that made everyone mad. So mad that this story is not dying out. Yesterday, the city of Kansas City, his home city, he's helped them win 3 Super Bowls, semi-doxed him. They said he doesn't live in Kansas City proper. Here's the suburb he lives in. I won't even repeat it. His home city. He really was instrumental in especially 2 of those 3 Super Bowls. Like one of the main point scorers. And that's how they repay him. And the NFL, the league, has condemned his statements. Players can support child mutilation. Players can support anti-white racism. Players can support Soviet-style socialism. Players can support whatever they want. But if they say, you know what? I believe what Christianity teaches, then they should be doxxed and they should be condemned. Now, Harrison is really going through it. This story went larger than I thought. I took a call with him a couple mornings ago when it first happened. He called me, and I said, good work. When the world comes at you like this, there's a playbook to follow. I'll go through that in a second, but I want to read the magisterium. The playbook is basically you double down by saying, hey, it's not me, it's just all of Christianity, which is true. All of Christianity teaches men and women do not have the same rights, and women do not have the right to go abroad, to be out, to be in the workplace. If you think that's extreme, then listen to the rest of this show. All right, so for Isabel Butker, who's a nice lady, and I see her sometimes liking my tweets on Twitter, and she's been in the background saying stuff when I've talked to Harrison various times on the phone. I've never met her in real life, but she's a very, very delightful lady and doesn't want the limelight and supports her husband, but doesn't, she doesn't want the smoke. It's just so understandable. You have to understand, even though yours is a larger stage, Harrison and Isabel, that Steph and I have been doxxed, semi-doxxed, canceled, lost jobs, lost alternate forms of financial support. And our main audience was Catholic, was right-of-center Catholics. And they will throw you one under the bus. You guys have to understand that it's very tough when you're going through it. I mean, Rolling Stone, Washington Post, New York Times, LA Times, everyone's coming at you. Your own NFL, your own city. I'm sorry. Steph has some wifely words of support, but I will tell you this, that men without chests also lack enemies. Men without chests also lack enemies. So you should be judged by your friends, because birds of a feather flock together. But more than that, more than how one should judge oneself as a man, judge yourself by your enemies. Do you have the right enemies? Men without chests in the burbs, dead-eyed suburbanites who just go along to get along. They work as a cog in the corporate wheel. They don't have enemies. Harrison is getting a bigger and a better list of enemies, right? I mean, like, I've said this for so long. You really don't, the other trad Catholic influencers really don't have enemies. Because when you sit around and you say, go to the Latin Mass, I mean, maybe Pope Francis obliquely hates all trads. I get that. But it's not really a hot enough topic to just say, hey, I go to the Latin Mass. I think the Novus Ordo's banal and awful. I mean, I agree. I'm with you. But there are issues downstream of the traditional versus new churchy feel in the post-conciliar church that are more important to the way that folks live, that will get you real enemies if you speak up on. And quite frankly, the other Catholics, traditional or whatever, have not been willing to treat of those issues. Now, Harrison has joined a very, very small cadre. It's pretty much me and my very close friends and my wife, of traditional Catholics who is like, I'm gonna touch the third rail. And now you're gonna get the real enemies. And a lot of those enemies are Catholics, and a lot of those Catholics are right of center that just can't deal with the biggest attack on society and the original attack on society. Welcome, 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 and congratulations, 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 Harrison and Isabel, because this is doing the Lord's work. We really commend you. And I'm going to read you, after Steph gives her word to Isabel, how much Catholic teaching there is in favor of what you said. And that's really all you had to say at Benedictine. Here you go, Steffi.
Oh, thank you very much. I just wanted to give wife-to-wife encouragement to Isabel, because I know right now this must feel like just torture. The wolves are coming for her husband. It's got to just feel absolutely chaotic and crazy. I just want to tell her that she should be, and I know she is, but very proud of her husband, and just remember that this is what living for Christ is all about. The world will hate you. If the world is coming for your husband, then that means that he is doing great things. And just take shelter in the fact that many women before you and your husband have served Christ in ways that have taken their very lives were at stake. So a little bit of scorn from Rolling Stone, the NFL, all that, it's so worth it. And I would just encourage her to make her husband the best damn sandwich he's ever had in his life. Just take heart. This will pass. And it's just, be just so proud of her husband.
Part of the trick, I think, is learning it. Not only will it pass, but also it will, when it passes, you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad at all. So the bark is worse than the bite of the swarming herd. So when people, I mean, like there's a very, very rare exception to what I just said, whereupon in the 1 or 2% of cases, you know, if you have Soros front groups involved that are actually paid to be shipped in vagrants and migrants and malcontents from other cities, they're bussed in directly by George Soros, and they bus in the bricks for them to throw at your house, and they literally scatter around brick piles the way they were doing in the summer of 2020. When I got fired, I was literally in some danger of this. I had to beat it out of town. Before I came to Mississippi, I had to spend another month in California, and we were worried about real stuff like this because I was front page in the paper for attacking BLM and James Martin and one of the other Abrahamic faiths. And so, you know, it's like, okay, I just want to make sure that there's not actually a front group being highly funded to come to my house and throw highly funded bricks at me and my family. That will happen 1.5% of the time when a story goes this viral. So that you want to watch out for, and there are indicia along the way that it's going that giga viral. I don't think this is for Harrison. I don't think they're going to be bussing in people. So keep your antennae out for that. But as long as it's one of the other 98.5% of occurrences where a Catholic guy, a Christian guy says something that is more than just, hey, I'm a nice Ned Flanders Christian. I like the Latin Mass. I love the Eucharist. I love the Lord. They're never going to get mad at you for saying that. And Harrison is learning this. Like, oh, there's such a big difference between saying I'm a traditional Catholic. They don't get mad. And here's what being a traditional Catholic means practically in the way I live and what I believe about what all of you live, like Taylor Swift. Then they come at you knives out. And guess what? Half of them are Catholic and half of them are Catholics who go to the Latin Mass with you because their wives work. And they're really, really hurt. They're angry. They're looking to counter hurt. Well, so with that other 98.5% of the time, they will sound really like they're gonna come at you with bricks, and they just don't. And you learn to decipher, having done this a few times myself. Oh, okay, they're not coming at me with bricks, and this is funny. This is funny. Embrace being the bad boy. I mean, this is what I had to do in a much smaller sphere, just in Catholic internet. Now, this is in front page. This is very off the internet. This is in front of everyone. I can't believe how viral it's gone. I didn't think it would go this viral. From Little Benedictine College, it is an in-house Catholic matter, an in-house Catholic graduation, one trad Catholic addressing mostly other trad Catholics. But they got a hold of it. The NFL's on it. His now not native, but his hometown for the Chiefs. Kansas City has thrown him under the bus. The NFL has thrown him under the bus. I've yet to see what the Chiefs have actually said. That could be really, really, really nasty and turncoat-ish. But it's funny. You have to laugh at it.